How many of you have been in the store and have wondered what the purpose of a non-GMO sticker is? If you're a farmer like me, you want people to feel safe eating your food product, but a lot of people now these days feel like they don't feel safe, so they want to have that non-GMO sticker on their food, but why would they spend more money just on that sticker? When buying or growing food, it shouldn't matter if there's a GMO sticker on it or not because a number of studies have shown that there is nothing wrong with GMOs. There's only a short list of food products that have GMOs on them, or that are actually GMOs, but still, if that food is not a GMO product, they will still put that sticker on the product, which basically doesn't mean anything. Um, I am a senior agronomy student, so I've been around GMO foods and I've seen the benefits of what they have to offer in the food industry and how they can better the economy, and I know the safeness of them. I've also been in the supermarket stores and I've seen the prices and how they can be more expensive than what normal foods are. First, we'll talk about GMOs and how they can adapt better to the changing climate. Secondly, we'll see how GMOs are less susceptible to diseases in plants. Lastly, GMOs have a higher production rate and can have better yields, and we'll talk about how that can better the economy. Let's start off this speech by seeing how they can perform better in the changing climates of the world. There's a growing population in the world, and we'll need more food produced on less acres of land. So GMOs can be very important because they will have a higher yield. According to How GMOs Help Us Address Climate Change from Forbes.com in 2016, it states that in total, in 2014, genetically modified crops reduced atmospheric carbon dioxide emissions by 5.2 million pounds through conservation tillage and decreased fuel usage. These GMO products require less tillage, so farmers decrease their passes in the field and reduce their fuel emissions, which obviously reduces carbon dioxide emissions, since carbon dioxide is a portion of the greenhouse gas and global warming emissions. So several sources talk about reducing passes through the field, which, like I just said, that's what farmers use the most on their for fuel. And there's also a carbon reduction additive that farmers can put in their fuel for their tractors that reduce the emissions. Also, according to that same article in 2015, if all the corn in the United States was planted, if all the genetically modified corn was planted with conservation tillage, 308 million gallons of fuel would be saved in that growing season. Drought stress and water use efficiency has also been increased with genetically modified plants. So if there's a dry year, these genetically modified plants can use water more efficiently and have a higher producing yield with less water than what conventional crops are. So conventional crops will struggle with water stress and they'll show symptoms way earlier than what a genetically modified crop will do. Also, since the climate's been changing faster and faster throughout the world, temperatures are getting hotter, these crops can be bred for performing better in warmer temperatures and drier temperatures, whereas conventional crops, they're just what they are, and nothing gets bred into them, so they're still they have old genetics. Now it's time to see how big of an advantage GMOs have when it comes to plant diseases and weeds. Diseases and weeds can possibly take out a farmer's whole crop if it is not managed or looked after. Conventional crops they have less options of chemical use, where farmers can't use certain chemicals because they will injure or even kill the crops. Consumers are worried about chemicals and pesticides on their food products when they buy them from the store, but really every farmer only applies chemicals according to the label, and the last time they apply a chemical is before they harvest is when the label says to do so. So that pretty much guarantees that there's no chemicals on the food product. So these chemicals pretty much only help make the food product a better product, and it still ensures safety. Since we were talking about climate change earlier, there's higher humidity, especially around where we live in Nebraska, and that causes a lot more diseases. So these pesticides and fungicides that are applied to these genetically modified crops, the crops are or they won't be harmed by them, and then it also helps protect their overall health. So these chemicals can help cover the crop and keep them from being injured. According to an article on Monsanto.com from 2018 that says plants with traits that protect roots from insect damage have an additional benefit of using water efficiency. So if the plant health is better overall for the plant, then it'll stay healthy and it can keep using its water efficiently and all its other nutrients in the soil, because it doesn't have that stress and feeling that those harmful pesticides on the roots. Plants are bred to have resistance in GMOs, so like I said, they'll be able to have more chemicals applied to them, and which won't kill them or anything. And then also that's the same for pesticides and stuff. So now let's see how GMOs also have a higher rate of production and can help boost the economy. GMOs are bred with newer genes and technology that allow it to have a higher yield. So conventional crops don't have any new genes, so they're pretty much way behind in the gene world, which doesn't allow them to put on better roots where they can have higher nutrient uptake, or they can use their water more efficiently, or even like the root disease and plant diseases, they won't be able to defend for themselves like these GMO crops can do, and then helps the yield. A GMO with good drought resistance can still grow efficiently and last longer before showing symptoms. Like a conventional crop, it would show symptoms way faster, and that would have harmful effects on the crop, which cuts back on yield. According to an article, there are environmental and economic benefits to GMO crops. 150 million since 1996 by Nicholas Starapley from 2016. Corn farmers experienced a 13% increase in yields just from insect-resistant technology. So these technologies and plants can help benefit farmers because they can get more cash boom for their buck, pretty much, saying, because they can have this input and then get more out of it when they're selling it or harvesting. Herbicide-tolerant crops can be very beneficial because especially with the resistance to weeds and these diseases, a new mode of action or a new chemical on these GMOs can help get rid of that weed or problem, where if you had conventional, you'd be stuck with that resistance, and pretty much if you applied that chemical, it wouldn't do anything for your crop. According to the same article, herbicide-tolerant technology boosted farmers' income by $5.2 billion alone just with soybeans. So soybeans, it has a lot of weeds that come through it since it is late in shading. A lot of farmers have wide rows, so a lot of these weed species have herbicide-tolerant. They're just resistant. So these GMOs need to be able to have more options available for herbicides. And conventional, you'd still be using the same ones over and over, and it'd be resistant to that mode of action. A higher producing crop also means more exports, so that boosts the economy in our country because we have higher yields, and we can ship off more if other countries are willing to buy from us, which can stimulate our economy. So where conventional, we could lose a lot of our yield to these diseases, and where we wouldn't have better yield. So now to wrap this speech up, we'll wrap this speech up and talk about how GMOs are a necessity to in the future to feed the growing population. We talked about that because population is going to keep growing where we still need food. When buying groceries or looking at food, it shouldn't matter if it's GMO or not, because in reality, GMOs are still safe and they're actually better for the food industry and our country. So there's only a short list of food products that are actually GMOs, so that GMO sticker should be disregarded. So from now on, or first we talked about how GMOs are better for climate change, and then we talked about how they deal better with plant diseases and weeds. And then lastly, we covered about how they have higher production and or boost the economy. So from now on, the GMO sticker shouldn't mean anything, and no need to pay more money just for that sticker that is basically useless.